Service Headline News. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by our historian, Eric Perrott.
Hey now, we're back.
And our man in the closet, Jake Wall.
What's going on, guys?
And we're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all servicemen and women. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as the Swearing In Podcast presents Service Headline News. Gentlemen, we're back. Thanks for your world tour. Eric went out to Greece to grace them with his presence as the big, ugly American.
And who wore his podcast hat, by the way? Wore his podcast.
Oh, did you? I didn't see any pictures of that.
Oh, nice.
Now we're worldwide, baby. We're worldwide.
There was one in there, man. I'm telling you. I'm wearing it in my Facebook page.
Well, I didn't look that closely. I was like, the fucker went to Greece. Yeah, I'm jealous. Skip. And Jake went out to Grand Old Britain, where you were the ugly American out there. So,
man,
how did it?
I'm always amazed that that place is so diverse. Everywhere you go, you're hearing 3 or 4 languages at almost all times.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Now both of you guys are pretty big guys, and you're going to countries where they're not used to pretty big guys. Well, maybe Greece is, but not tall, right? You guys are both you're seeing over the crowds generally, right?
Well, here's one for you. On the ship, on the cruise ship, what do they call the porter, the guys that clean your room?
Yeah.
He started calling me Stone Cold.
Stone Cold?
Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm bald-headed. I have a great goatee and beard. Look just like him. Come on.
He's got that so Texas accent when he's talking, right?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But just based
Greek
on appearance.
porter doesn't know the difference between an accent.
Yeah, that's true.
Region and that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he just said, Stone Cold's back. Stone Cold's back. He's yelling down the freaking hallway. It's awesome.
There you go.
And you knew none of his catchphrases, right? So you couldn't even play into that.
No, not really. I've never got into the wrestling scene. I just knew who he was.
Well, at least you knew, right?
Yeah.
You know, you didn't meet him, or at least you faked it to him.
And I've also seen his television program, that one where he's out on his ranch and
that competition. That was fun, man. That was a cool show.
Brings all the athletes out and they go head to head. That
was a good show. Broken Skull Ranch.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
I actually told him, dude, I am Stone Cold. I am him. You got it right.
Yep.
Well, why bust his bubble, man? He's gonna go back to his wife and 10 kids, and he's like, I met Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He was on the cruise.
He didn't quite seem like he was on the TV, but I met him.
Or he goes back and he's BSing with all his friends at the market. He's like, man, I call this guy Stone Cold every day. He's like,
and you know what? That got him a good tip. That's
what he's laughing about.
He's related.
Exactly.
Guy gave me a great tip because I called the dumbass Stone Cold.
I stroked this American's ego, and he paid out the nose, man.
I told you only had to remember 5 American names and call each one of them a different one. I told you.
It was between Stone Cold and The Rock, and he has a color differential there, exactly. So you became Stone Cold.
We default to Stone Cold.
It was perfect, man. The guy got a great tip from me for stroking my ego.
Nice.
Good deal.
All right, this day in history, since we're doing it on the 6th, it's going to be published on the 7th. But, of course, June 6th, 1944, the Allied invasion of France, commonly known as D-Day. Now, this is interesting. This little part's interesting, and a lot of stuff I don't know, right? I still don't know exactly which units were where and all this, but this history page says D-Day begins as guardsmen from the 29th Infantry Division, which were D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, storm onto what will forever after be known as Bloody Omaha Beach. I didn't know they were guardsmen.
Yeah, all Man, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. The lead element, Virginia's 116th Infantry, suffers nearly 80% casualties, but
Wow.
gains the foothold needed for the invasion to succeed. The 116th Artillery Support, the 111th Field Artillery Battalion, also from Virginia, loses all 12 of its guns in high surf. I can't believe they were trying to pull guns into that surf. Or artillery pieces into that surf. Loses all 12 of its guns in high surf trying to get on the beach. The men take up arms from the dead and fight as infantrymen. Engineer support came from the District of Columbia's 121st Engineer Battalion. Despite high losses too, its men succeed in blowing holes in several obstacles, clearing paths for the men to get inland off the beach. In the early afternoon, God, that's crazy how many hours they were out there for that.
Yeah.
In the early afternoon, Maryland's 115th Infantry lands behind the 116th and moves through its shattered remnants to start the movement in off the beach. Supporting the invasion was the largest air fleet known to history. Among the units flying missions were the Guards, 107th and 109th out of Michigan and Minnesota, Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron.
Wow.
The Normandy campaign lasted until the end of July, with 4 Guard infantry divisions, the 28th out of Pennsylvania, 29th and 30th out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, and the 35th out of Kansas, Missouri, and New England, taking part Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, taking part along with dozens of non-divisional units, all earning the Normandy Streamer. That stuff I didn't know about that. I didn't know it was that many guardsmen. So
you know what? It still amazes me the fact that those guys were told the losses were going to be huge, and the fact that you still have the gall and the gumption to go, fuck it, I'm going to come off this boat and I'm going to invade a beach.
Right.
That's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, not only that, but like they were gonna go the day before, but the weather was bad, so they kept them on the boat and made them sick too.
Yeah.
Like Jesus.
I can't imagine, jumping off the edge with too much weight. You got ammo cans you're carrying. You can't even freaking get out of the water, man.
Balls as big as church bells, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to see a generation like that again, man.
The idea of like having to drop half your stuff in the water and fight for your life, and then breach out of the water and then get to some sort of cover, and then figure out what you have left on you. You're like, well, I had 2 ammo cans in my rifle. Now I've got somebody else's web belt.
Right.
Oh.
If we had any foresight, we could have done a longer thing on D-Day, because I had read some subsequent stuff, like the Canadians took huge losses.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which beach they were on, but they took big losses too.
Yeah.
They were on Gold and Juno and Sword.
Did they have both of those? Because they were still split up. I know. I can't remember the Brits. So
between the British and Canadians, they overcame light opposition to capture beaches codenamed Gold, Juno, and Sword.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And we had
freaking
Omaha.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And then you go into the Deception campaign.
Yeah. Prior
to that. That's awesome.
That part's super cool.
Where they floated that dead guy up onto the beach. That's like, God dang.
Have you guys ever seen? Have you ever seen? I feel so bad for this guy or his family. Every time you see real life footage of D-Day, you see that one guy. There's like 3 of them. They're getting off that freaking carrier, and he's running, and he gets popped. Yeah. And you see him, and I go, how many times do I got to see this guy die? Every time you it's crazy. So I'm in awe of those guys.
And to go further than that, I think it's like the greatest 15 minutes in cinematic military history. The beginning part of Saving Private Ryan. I mean, my God,
absolutely.
I remember watching that in the theater. I don't think I breathed for until it was over. I was like, this is unbelievable.
I was in awe.
And if it's anything close to what that movie was, Jesus, crazy.
death of the horror of people. I mean, you see a whole line of guys get mowed down because they came up in front of the 244 machine gun or whatever the hell the Germans had. That what they call that thing? The buzz saw. They called it a buzz saw.
Yeah.
Oof. Takes out a whole Higgins.
It's a pretty famous machine gun too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing to me.
See, this is one of you guys should be looking this up. What was that?
I looked up other things. Please reference the chat for disapproving Rourke.
MG42.
That's it.
The MG42. So
wicked machine gun, staring down the middle of a Higgins boat, whacking people. Geez. So, unbelievable.
Thank you, Greatest Generation. That's pretty badass. So hats off.
No doubt.
All right, let's get on to the news. Hey, remember how we were covering how the Air Force was going to do these fitness bands and fitness watches?
Mm-hmm.
So, did you see, Jake? Did you? Well, I don't know. Do you get some? You don't have a NipperNet account, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Did you see the email they sent out today?
No, I didn't check mine today.
All right, so they sent out an email about the warning of D18 Delta 818 smartwatches. So you can buy them on Amazon, and they're kind of like the cheaper Garmin kind of thing, and it'll do your steps, your blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. So they said there have been incidents of military personnel receiving D18 smartwatches in the mail. Just all of a sudden, it just shows up, right? In each reported case, they were received unsolicited. They are made in China. They can be purchased from various retailers to include Walmart, Amazon, etc. There are concerns that the watch can be used as a tool to gain a myriad of personal information from individuals, as well as cause a significant information or operations security threat to the DoD and its members.
No shit.
So they said,
how many members though? If you got one of those watches, if you just got one from Amazon and they're we don't know, like it came in an Amazon box.
Look at this,
and you're like, oh, look at this.
Oh, I'm keeping
this.
Call
Amazon. You're like,
and
I got this.
You're wearing like sons of bitches.
I'm firing it up.
I think you'll get like 85% of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, probably. And these guys
talk about cyber campaign. That's amazing.
They'll be walking around all proud of their new watch that didn't cost them a dime.
Yep, showing everybody else, talking to everybody else.
Speak to my new watch. Yeah.
So actually, whoever's listening to this, if this is pertinent to you, if you receive an unsolicited D18 smartwatch, please contact your unit anti-terror rep or security manager. If you receive one of these watches unsolicited, do not connect it to your personal Wi-Fi or bring it to work. It is recommended that you do not use the item for any purpose whatsoever.
You can take it to the skip. I'm sure they've mitigated.
So it seems like that fitness monitor idea is off to a roaring start. Who would have thought that there would have been issues with that, right?
I'm impressed with the fact that China said, here, I got an idea for that damn thing. That's amazing.
Everything they give us, they're like, hey, use this. It's a great thing for your fitness.
Yeah. Well, you remember when they talked about way back, Marty, when we talked about the ejection seat? And China stole everything.
That's right. They couldn't figure it out or something like that. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So they reverse engineered it all, but they couldn't figure out
figure out the ejection seat. Nice.
It just kept blowing the pilots up. And like, that didn't work.
Oh,
again.
Oh, that one shot him down. Oh, shit. Maybe we put it on backwards.
Let's call it a new weapon from the inside. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Gentlemen, how do you think the VA is doing? Money-wise?
Perfect. As good as any government organization.
That's right. Well, they're not doing good. They're not doing good. So
I am lost for words with
this
article.
this story is from military.com. Due to misplaced spending in fiscal year 2022, the VA lost more. And I know you've seen the article, but act like you haven't seen the article. Right? So what would you have guessed if I had told you, hey, the VA lost some money in 2022? Can you tell me about how much you think they lost?
I would have thought 100,000 at the most.
Oh, I would have said like 100 million.
Right? I wouldn't have even did that. I'm like,
yeah, right.
Shit.
Well, according to this Inspector General report, they lost $3.5 billion.
God.
And that's actually better than the previous years. That's what blows me away. So
that number's astronomical.
It's crazy.
That article, Marty, that you sent out, man, the whole ending section of it, I was just so disappointed.
Oh, and
when it breaks down like, hey, in 2022, we lost 180 billion. I'm like, oh my
you get through the article and it lets those people at the VA go, look how good we're doing.
Yes.
we didn't lose nearly as much as we've lost in the past couple of years.
That's what blew my mind. I was like astonished by the initial 3-point-something billion. And then I read the rest of the article and they're like, actually, they're doing really good.
Really good compared to 2 years ago.
You know, with the 3 years that they've lost money, we could cover our debt ceiling and reduce the national debt by.
Or we could give more weapons to Ukraine.
$10 billion.
Come on, Eric, think a little globally, would you?
Oh man.
But as we get through this article, one of the things that does kind of scare me is that now are they going to be more stingy on payouts for disability and shit?
You would think they got to recover.
I don't know, because they lost a lot the previous years and they didn't get stingy.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
But they already are kind of, they can be
They're already stingy anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys,
they'll take that 10% back if you friggin' got it on accident.
What constitutes misplaced spending?
I don't know. That's a good term too.
But, well, we bought 4 bedpans at $1 million a piece.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
We had no idea they were going to be that much.
Yeah. So the article says they simply could not account for 1.4 billion in spending, while the remaining amount was made up of non-monetary losses.
Non-monetary losses
that cannot be recovered, or were the
result of unknown
or unexplained payments.
I don't know. They didn't define it.
Unknown or unexplained payments. So
non-monetary.
No, like unexplained payments implies that you could have random freaking people out there doing VA fraud, disability fraud.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that.
Oh, I see where you're going.
There's a lot
of in my mind, No,
I agree. And it doesn't explain it, so we're free to speculate. So.
Yeah, amen. Maybe account for your money better if you don't want 3 random dudes.
Or just do some accounting.
Yeah.
Just some.
Is the same guy still have his job? Please tell me he's been pulled.
Oh, yeah, he's a GS. They don't get fired. But anyway,
the thing that the real thing that I get pissed off about this, but then I also get pissed off at trying to think about how much trouble we would have been at a squadron level.
Oh man,
if we would have mismanaged the freaking GTC card or mismanaged, and they were like off by $180,
right?
We just got demolished.
I'm going to give you a small example. When I had just put on master, and they put me in charge of supplying supplies and equipment for the UTCs. The UTCs were our 44 deployable teams. So I was responsible for ordering gear. We had to buy cold weather gear, and it consisted of those big ass white bunny boots that you could inflate.
All the vapor barrier stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I bought 600 smalls.
Oh no.
Smalls.
All the same size boots.
Oh no.
Perot, what the fuck?
That's exactly what I got. So it was because it was like small, medium, small, large. Medium, small, medium, large.
Right.
And I ordered 600 small, not one boot fit anybody on the UTC. So, oh my God.
And it's not like Amazon's clothes service. They're like, hey, try it. If you don't like it, you can return it and exchange it. It was like, all sales final, baby.
I did get to return them.
Oh, lucky you.
But nonetheless, I was hammered like, hey, dumbass, are you not looking at what you're buying? Oh my God. Oh.
The Virginia Office of Inspector General reported Monday that the department simply could not account for $1.4 billion in spending, while the remaining amount was made of non-monetary, like you said, Jake, losses that, quote, cannot be recovered or were the result of unknown or unexplained payments. Programs that saw the biggest increases in losses or misspent funds from last fiscal year included veterans' pensions and long-term services and support, accounting for nearly $1.7 billion of the total. God.
Guys, we're talking $1 billion. $1
billion. I mean, is that like one flunky coming back and it's like, hey, do you guys keeping these receipts? And I'm like, nah, screw that. I have $1.7 billion.
I am lost for words.
Yeah, that's
with that
crazy.
kind of misplaced of funds.
Well, Jake, you brought it up a couple months ago when you brought up that you were talking about that one article where they did the audit of the Pentagon.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it was.
the Pentagon hadn't passed an audit
in like years.
Years. I was like, oh well.
Maybe the Pentagon trained the VA people, and they're like, okay, you guys are good.
It's just the bureaucracy. Like it's just
the VA is
the only way you could is just corruption and bloat. You know, I'm like,
sure.
You can't explain that much government loss without getting a little bit corruption. A little bit of corruption in there.
And how are we successful? How could we possibly be successful?
Well, I will tell you that when we get down to the article. I'll tell you how successful we've been. Earlier this year, the VA OIG found that the department failed to account for at least $187 million in supplementary COVID-19 spending. So
that's pocket change.
I don't know. I don't know how that COVID money just spread out, and they're just like, give some to the VA. Hey, okay.
Well, to be fair, most of it's got their shots there. Their COVID shots.
Well, that's true.
You think that's what it was?
The first and second ones, I think a lot of vets did.
$187 million worth.
Easy.
Which
Look how the VA spends money.
The IG attributed to these losses to contract issues, purchasing of medical supplies, and a lack of visibility over payroll.
Visibility.
Who are you guys paying? So, for its most recent report, the Virginia OIG reviewed spending across 7 programs to determine whether the department has complied with the Payment Integrity Information Act. And I was trying to say, did they do an acronym for that? And they didn't. So that's actually a proper title. So, Payment Integrity Information Act, which was legislation passed in 2020, designed to increase oversight of programs susceptible to improper payments. Well, the OIG said that the VA had largely complied with the legislation, but recommended that the Undersecretary for Benefits rein in improper or unexplained payments for pensions. How do you have an unexplained payment for a pension?
They're paying a dead guy.
Maybe. That very well could be, yeah.
Or you're paying random other
I remember it had to be 20 years ago when they had these. I think they were Army. I think they were Army pay specialists, and they. Did you ever hear that story where they created the fake soldier?
No.
On paper, they created this fake soldier, and his monthly pay, they were withdrawing it. Yeah.
Oh.
That was, and they did that for a long, long time.
It would be easy to do back in now too. Back in the day, remember, it was all just paperwork.
Yeah, it was just all paperwork. Right.
And it wasn't like confirmed that.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to say, okay, this guy's processes paperwork. He's another soldier.
And you gave it to an airman or a senior airman that worked in freaking admin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would think the tracking through social security numbers, birth dates, that kind of thing. Do you just make that up and give him credentials?
Yes, that's what they did.
I bet you could just guess a social security number. And
probably
it might be right. And
right? Then or look at the death registry and take one.
No, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think it would be that horribly difficult.
It doesn't sound like it, right?
Half the times they don't realize when you're paying taxes or not in the military, right? They'll
that's
audit.
True. Yeah,
they'll audit people. Some random state will audit you. Like California audited me for not paying taxes because I was a dependent to a military member while I was active duty.
Oh wow!
There you go, California.
Jesus.
Shout out to you, California.
They can't keep track of that,
Well, here you go, Eric. Here's why the VA is doing better, right?
Okay.
So the $3.5 billion for 2022 is actually significantly lower than the $11.37 billion in losses reported in fiscal 2020.
Wow.
They lost $11 billion in 2020.
Here's the thing. Here's what's ridiculous. We're like 11 billion. We just automatically dropped the 370 million by rounding it up. We're like 370 million is not a big deal. Just 11 billion.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
That's an insane number.
That's right. You're right. They hit 11,370,000,000. That's the actual number when you say it out that right.
Nobody would have answered your question, Marty, about how much do you think? $11 billion, I think.
Well, how much do you think they lost in fiscal year 2021? If they lost $11 billion in 2020, fiscal year 2021, they only lost $5 billion.
Oh, that's
what a letdown.
50%.
They're improving, see? So they went from 11 billion a couple of years ago to 5 billion in 21. Now it's 3.5 billion in 2022.
Such a letdown.
It's just baby steps, man.
God.
And that's a 70% improvement rate, though. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, somebody's getting an award for that.
Can we actually hear ourselves justifying that?
$3 billion.
God, come on. We're going to promote that guy. He only lost $3 billion.
Well, that's what his MSM is going to say.
That's a huge improvement. He took us from 11 billion in mismanagement
down to 3.5 billion in mismanagement.
What an organization this guy runs, man.
3 years. I mean, it is an impressive cut, but it's still a ridiculous amount of money.
It's still
being siphoned off or lost.
An amazing amount of ineptitude. So,
how do you walk into what are the guys that on C-SPAN when you walk into to give a testimony about something? What do they call what are those guys? Congress? Is it Congress?
Like a deposition or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, the VA's running well. We're doing great. We only lost $3 billion this year.
Yeah.
But that's if Congress even thinks to ask about that. They're probably so used to losses. They're just like,
you know what that guy's EPR bullet says? Like drastically, dynamically improved.
Single-handedly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, with the 3 years we could knock down our national debt damn near $1 trillion with all the shit they lost.
And this is just.
I wonder what the annual budget for VA is.
Well, it did go sort of into that because they just agreed on that budget deal. I can't, I should have looked that up, but it can't be $1 trillion. I'm sure it's not $1 trillion, but I don't know. That'd be interesting. We should look.
Unbelievable, man.
So, well, staying with the money theme, here's another pay for play. Right, here's another incentive to stay in. So, from Air Force Times reports, Air Force aviators could nab. They use nab. Like 50s gumshoe detectives, you know. They could nab $50,000 each year by staying in uniform. So, I guess the Air Force has constantly been about 2,000 pilots short from what they need. And I guess that's been year after year. They're always short pilots. So now they've come up with an incentive to pay pilots to stay in. Only if they like extend early before like their last year. So under the newest version of this bonus program, eligible aviators who sign a new contract this year will receive between $15,000 and $50,000 annually for anywhere from 3 to 12 years. So however long they sign up, they're going to still, it sounds like $5,000 a year, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Air Force spokesman Captain Rachel Salpietra said, in total, airmen could see a windfall of $45,000 to $600,000 in bonus pay over the course of their new commitment. Some can earn lump sum payments of $100,000 or $200,000 up front, depending on their job and how long they remain in the service. That's probably like, one really, really restricted class of a person, but everybody else you're going to get a couple thousand.
Well, or you get a windfall from the VA because they're paying everybody.
Well, by mistake,
you put your name out there, and I'm sure they'll pay you.
You get $100,000 from the VA, and you get a smartwatch.
Gentlemen, I would like to retrograde back to that story for just a moment, if I may. Are you ready for this?
You may.
Thank you.
Go for it.
The Department of Veteran Affairs spends the 5th most of all federal agencies, accounting for 5% of federal spending.
5%? Wow.
Yes. VA expenditures have almost tripled in the last 20 years, from $70 billion in fiscal year 2000 to $200 billion in fiscal year 2019. Adjusted for inflation, the VA has a proposed $243.3 billion budget for fiscal year 2021. So in 2023, actually it's going to be 2024, $303 billion annual for the VA.
Compare that amount that they lost though.
What
was the
3.5 bill?
That
was last year.
Yeah.
And what was their budget, total budget?
It was actually 2021 was $243.3 billion.
Oh, 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't see.
Well, and you got to wonder. I wonder. I don't know what the percentage is of all that money and how it breaks down, but the VA payments over 20 years of being in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where previous to 2020, we didn't.
Yeah.
It was Vietnam.
Yeah. Right? I understand the expenditure, especially for the VA and the veterans and what they're paying. I get that part. But to lose the amount that we're talking about.
True. Yeah.
When your annual budget is, this year $303 billion, right, and you lose 3.5 like it's pocket change. Unbelievable. I'm sorry. I know I just read this and I wanted to go.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you brought it up.
Wow.
Because I was wondering what that budget was. So they lost. Anybody on the civilian world, if they're like, hey, you're running this company that basically has a budget of 300 billion, and you just lost what 10% of it or 5% of it or whatever it was. We want to keep you around, see how you do next year.
Yeah, or better yet, go on that Trump movie or not the Trump TV series. You're fired.
Yeah, you would be fired
because if you tell Trump you lost 3.5 billion of his money, he's fired. You're fired.
But if you tell the government that, they'll be like, "Hey, you're doing great.
Let's get
You've really improved. You've really improved."
That hurts my head.
So, anyway, back to paying pilots. But this deal applies to pilots of manned and drone aircraft, air battle managers, which I'm not quite sure what they are, but air battle managers and combat systems officers whose initial service commitments expire in fiscal 2023, which ends on September 30th. Pilots must serve for 10 years after finishing undergraduate training. Air battle managers and combat systems officers are in for 6 years. The service will accept applications starting Tuesday. So later this summer, Air Force also plans to launch a new initiative known as the Rated Officer Retention Demonstration Program. That offers pilots another option. If their contracts are set to end between fiscal 2024 and 2026, they can tack another 4 years onto the end of that commitment and get $50,000 in bonuses per year. Per year, or 200,000 in total. Jesus. But listen to this. Those who don't participate in the congressionally mandated program and wait to renew until the year their contract expires, they'll get a smaller amount.
Huh.
So they want you early, man. They want you now.
Well, they want to get that 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's funny because Air Battle Manager, I'm looking at it. It's the guys that do the command and control capability to airborne and ground units are going to be paid
so
the same.
They're doing the whole like theater of stuff, right?
Yeah, that the airborne command post kind of things.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Command and control C2.
Yeah, that's a pretty specific skill. So that's
they're running the E3 Sentry aircraft. What do they call those? The old ones?
The Hawkeye.
That's the small one.
Oh, the
you know the one with
AWACS or EWACS?
That's what I'm talking about.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, some of those guys.
AWACS.
Yeah, those are the air battle managers and some other guys.
I'm always amazed when you see that Navy version of that AWACS, that smaller AWACS, land on the carrier, and you're like, that's badass, man.
Yeah.
Hauling that big dish on top. Jesus. Like I said, the Air Force has had about a 2,000 pilot shortage for years. Each year, it hopes to employ about 13,000 active duty pilots overall, plus another 8,000 or so in the Guard and Reserve. And a web of factors that include that cause the losses include commercial airline hiring, of course, military flight instructor shortages, aircraft maintenance slowdowns, changes in the U.S. war footing abroad. Not sure what that means, and the Air Force's shrinking fleet has created the long-running shortfall that makes the service more vulnerable in a potential crisis. Sort of like, hey, we're about to go to war with China. Can we pay you $200,000 to stay in and go through that war for us?
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? We've talked about the incentives and stuff of keeping people in.
Yeah.
It's funny how they're getting $100,000, $200,000. The enlisted guy gets to wear a tattoo on his neck. That's a big deal, man.
Hey, he's getting a smartwatch. Come on, man.
Come on. The disparaging distance between those kind of things kill me. They kill me.
Well,
I mean, I understand the officer, but we're talking about a senior NCO that tells the lieutenant captain how the hell to do the job. He needs to be compensated correctly or incentivized a little better than a tattoo and maybe a beard.
In the early 2000s in space, the 1 Charlie 6 career field, Eric, was critically manned.
Okay.
So early on, there were bonuses to coming over to that, right? Did you ever have bonuses for security forces?
No. I'm trying to think. There was one where there was a shortage before we combined career fields between law enforcement and security.
Yeah.
There was some incentive bonus for the law enforcement guys that would come over to security, because security was running low, a little low at first.
Yeah,
but it didn't last long. So, no bonuses.
All right, so the VA is losing money. The Air Force is paying pilots. What are we on to next? Okay, this last story. It's a weird one because I read the story. I was like, the thing that got me was whoever had to write this story must have been right at the deadline. And they're like, we need a story. We need 1,000 words from you or whatever. So he writes this story because at first when you read it, and this is from Stars and Stripes, when you read the headline, it says, police arrest U.S. troops following car vandalism sprees in Japan and South Korea. And you're like,
organized.
That's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
It's not organized in any way, shape, or form. It's just two knuckleheads in two different parts of the world went off and started bashing cars.
That's perfect.
So wait, hold on. I'm going to set you up, Eric. I'm going to set you up. The article states 2 U.S. service members, one in Japan and another in South Korea, were accused of smashing automobiles in parking lots only days apart. Okinawa police arrested Air Force Staff Sergeant William Smith, 29, of Kadena Air Base on Sunday, alleging he smashed multiple vehicles at a popular shopping and entertainment district about a mile from the base. Smith was taken into custody in Chitan after a witness reported a foreigner hitting a car in a parking lot at about 8 p.m.
Unbelievable.
Round eye was hitting car.
Foreigner was bashing the crap. I don't know what he's doing.
A spokesman,
you know how those guys are. They get crazy sometimes.
Stay out of the Americans' way. Just back off.
What'd you do? I watched and ordered another round. It was pretty entertaining.
Guy was sweating and frothing at the mouth.
What a great way to give us a good name.
So this staff sergeant, he fled, but police apprehended him about an hour later after he jumped a fence. I wish they'd tell more about that, but that's it. Now, in South Korea, just a couple days earlier, police arrested a U.S. service member who reportedly wielded a parking lot fixture to damage 3 cars in a popular nightlife district in Seoul. Police in U.S. Forces Korea declined to identify the service member, but police in Seoul's Mapo district responded to a report of a man striking vehicles with a rubber parking block at about 12:50 a.m.
Wait. What it doesn't leave in or put in there is where that parking lot block was located on his body. You know he was swinging that around at midnight, drunk as hell, like a dick. He's just like, look at this!
Bashing windows.
Oh my god! And you can picture it, right?
We're laughing on the side of the road.
I'm seeing it, man.
The cops show up. They're like, "Oh shit, we're out."
Look at this crazy son of a bitch.
Look at Glenn. I told you didn't need that 8th shot.
Oh my god.
The service member smashed 3 cars, including a front and rear windshield, with the object. So, Eric, being security forces, come on, give us some of your outrageous ones, man.
Man, I don't, because, you know, as law enforcement and security, when we combined, we didn't make arrests. We detained people.
All right.
There wasn't official arrest. So when we're talking,
what was the wildest situation you ever walked up onto where you had to detain somebody?
We were doing when they do the entry and exit checks, of checking vehicles, we ask one to pull over to the right, and you're doing random entry exit.
Oh yeah, Rams or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we do it. So we had random coming inbound, and we always ask for, your proof of insurance and registration.
Yeah, sure.
So this guy has no registration, no driver's license.
Oh, shit.
And he's coming on board to see his girlfriend, who's an airman. Now, this guy's a civilian.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Man.
But we open up the trunk, and he's got boxes of sexual toys.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Not just a few boxes.
Jesus.
So
Crates o dildos.
exactly.
Were they new or
Brand new, still in the wrap. And he said, I do that part-time. I do.
Part-time?
I said, yeah, it's his job.
Oh, he sells sex toys.
He sells sex
part-time.
toys part-time.
Oh, wow.
But I detained him because he
Like
was
Tupperware.
wanted. We ended up detaining him because, we always had jurisdiction was usually by the city that where the Air Force Base was in. So in this instance, it was South Carolina. We called Charleston PD, and they came in because he had a warrant out for his arrest, failure to appear or something.
Oh my
But
gosh, that's just so you could confiscate some of those kids.
no, we sent them all with him. But that was probably the funniest thing because, again, most of our stuff was pretty cheesy. He didn't have insurance, or he, very few people came on the base with hard drugs, or we did have a couple DUIs where we would detain him, but that was always an airman that went back to his first sergeant.
No billet incidents?
No, nothing that I can remember,
I remember in Hawaii, in Schofield, these two young girls, and I think they were 17, and they came to the commander, and they were pissed, right? And they had said that somebody in the barracks, they had sex with two guys in the barracks, and they had filmed it, and didn't tell him about it, and they wouldn't give him the tapes back. So they came to the commander to say, hey, this is wrong. Well, the investigation was these two were like runaways, and they were in the barracks for a week.
Oh, geez.
And they were just going room to room, right? And it wasn't until somebody actually videotaped them that they got pissed off about it. And they were hiding in the wall lockers during the day.
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy. In a whole locker all day, man. God.
That was Marty.
They came out after formation, but So,
man.
Yeah, you didn't have domestic violence or anything like that?
Well, usually that was held once, if it was on base. Once we arrived on scene, separated them, we called first sergeants, commanders, and then OSI would always come and take anything. Or our investigation section would always run with those kind of things.
Now, overseas, did you guys do any health and welfare inspections or anything like that?
Absolutely, especially in the dormitories. The first sergeants,
right.
We would go in and search rooms. It was almost like a freaking prison shakedown.
God, it was. The first one I had to do in the Army for that, they not only did their rooms, but they went out to their cars.
Yeah.
And they had them open up their cars.
We did that too in the parking lot. Your vehicle was there. Yeah.
And I swear to God, the first sergeant said, watch this. And he opened the hood and he took the air filter cover off. And that's where the pot was. And I was like, God damn. He goes, they do it every time. That's like,
that was the biggest thing. There was very few times where OSI, would, oh shit, we've got heroin, or we've got a bag of cocaine, or that never happened. It was always a small bag of 2 rolled up cigarettes or something.
You ever went undercover or nothing like that?
I did.
It was like Steve Austin, Stone Cold. You're walking around.
Stone Cold, yep.
Never that good. I went undercover in Charleston with the investigation section.
Drank beer.
Because we had a peeper, a peeping Tom.
Really?
So, yeah, we were sitting in
a service member or a civilian?
It was a service member, and we caught him.
Wow.
But we were sitting in 3 different houses that had been peeped before. So once the peep happened.
Are you just sitting there with the lights off, just waiting?
No, we actually had the lights on late at night. And this idiot's running around looking through windows. So, but
they didn't put you in lingerie to like make sure that he saw something.
Yeah.
Negative. In fact,
No,
the homeowners wouldn't even home. That was the idea. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's my whole thing of undercover work.
That was it.
Gets you a peeping Tom.
So you tackled him in a bra and panties and brought him to justice.
Come on.
Didn't even
That
have to
would've been way
tackle,
better.
man.
I didn't even break a heel.
No.
Eric, you don't have to wear the heels. You know that, right?
I didn't. Running in my dress, I look good though.
Like, look at this. Look at the strides on that woman. Jeez.
Marty Beeps. Oh my God.
You know, there was an article where now the military is saying that there's not going to be any more drag shows, right?
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
And the article was kind of funny because it was almost in defense of drag shows, and they were like, even in World War II, there were incidents of men dressing up in dresses to entertain the troops. I was like, that's a far cry from a drag show.
What we got now, yeah. Far cry.
That's Corporal Klinger in MASH.
Yeah.
Or White Christmas, when the two former or retired military guys go out and dress as the sisters.
Right. Yeah. But it's all mocking. It's not like, hey, I'm really trying to pass, right? So.
Wow, I'm impressed Jake knew about sisters. That was Danny Kaye, and who was the other guy? The more important one. He was a singer. Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby, yeah.
But you knew those two guys. I didn't think you were that old, Jake.
I watch it every year at Christmas with me.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. My wife makes me watch that damn show every Christmas.
Yeah. I watch it voluntarily every year at Christmas.
Yeah, that's tradition. You're right. Holy cow.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about, Marty? The two sisters and Danny Kaye. And,
Marty, you should watch that movie because it is.
Yeah.
It's very military.
Yeah.
It is because it starts off. They're doing a show, not a drag show, but they're doing a singing show for Christmas.
Yeah.
During World War II.
Yeah.
And then two of the guys that were singing and end up being like successful
vaudeville
musicians.
Oh, okay.
And then they go to Vermont because they were chasing women. but the place that they stop at, their former general in World War II was the owner.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
he's in financial problems.
Yep. Yeah, he's in financial troubles. And they're like, what can we do to help him? And they throw a huge show and save the day. And at
bring
the
all
end,
of the
they
soldiers,
actually get back his whole unit and get them there for his Christmas.
And this movie's called Sisters?
No, it's called White
Christmas.
Oh, White Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of that with Bing Crosby in it. I had no idea that was what the plot was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very military.
Huh.
But it is.
I'm not sure if I trust you on the way you're saying that. So.
Okay.
You're not going to see any Germans die. Let's put it that way.
Well, no.
No, it's not that. It's freaking singing. It's a musical.
Yeah.
But there's a definite military undertone.
Sure.
Weren't we joking about that last time? I mean, Gary Busey wore the dress, right? Gary Busey. The Steven Seagal movie.
What the hell is that?
Under Siege.
Under Siege. I don't think that was Gary Busey.
It was Gary Busey.
It was.
Yeah, I know. No, you're right.
So I guess there is a history of but that's not drag queen. That was anyway. Okay. Other than the history snafu, I think we should call it end up.
End it up.
Can you put Marty in depth on your screen?
Oh, I can.
Marty Peeps is cool though.
I've been changing this whole time.
I know. I saw Yoda.
I haven't been looking at it. I've been looking at my script, so I'm not even watching it. On behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more Service Headline News. Man, thanks for the week, and I'll see you next week.
All right, guys, missed you. Glad to be back.
All right. Hey, Eric, you know, if you lose, just randomly lose 4% of your budget, you'll just get it back next year, don't worry.
Yeah, that's right. Spend it or you won't get it.
I'm looking forward to it. If it's in the billions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what their loss was for that 1 year.
Ugh.
Literally unaccounted for 4%.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Good night.